here today, and it's really an honor to be here. And there's a lot of faces that that I associate with the snow and the avalanche world. So, yeah. Well, I think that advice is easier to give than it is to take. But if I had the opportunity to speak to my younger self, I guess I would offer some suggestions that might help create a balance between the deficiencies of human nature, especially my own, and the challenges facing a young avalanche worker. Much of what I would offer would be based on my past experience and the place where I spent most of my time. We are all shaped to some degree by our environment. Little Cottonwood Canyon is the environment that has had the strongest influence in my avalanche career. Ron Perla once told me that he thought Little Cottonwood Canyon was the best place in the solar system. He then corrected himself and said, no, the universe, as far as I know, to study avalanches. I don't know if I would go quite that far, but it's probably in the top 100 or so anyway. Although the fundamentals of avalanche forecasting and control are more or less the same throughout the world, each locale has its own subtle differences. These differences are created by the same things that influence avalanche conditions: weather, terrain, snowpack, and the human element. Our predecessors, who dealt with the same problems we face, experimented, made mistakes, learned from their mistakes, and established procedures that worked for them. Most of us have inherited at least some of the methods we rely upon for those who came before us. The long and rich avalanche history of Little Cottonwood Canyon and the stories of the colorful and dedicated avalanche workers of the past captivated me as a young, aspiring avalanche guy. Learning about the past inspired me to immerse myself in the avalanche world and encouraged me to try and become as deeply involved with the study of avalanches as those who had preceded me. A major advantage in developing the avalanche program at Snowbird was the fact that it was located next door to Alta, the birthplace of avalanche forecasting and control in North America. Many of the procedures developed at Alta during the preceding 3 decades could be applied to the operation at Snowbird. The influence of luminaries like Atwater, La Chapelle, Lindquist, and Sandal was as integral a part of how we did things as was the climate and the terrain. I more or less stumbled into the avalanche world. I was a naive and relatively inexperienced but enthusiastic ski patroller when I was put in charge of the avalanche program at the newly opened Snowbird ski area. Many of you may have found yourselves in equally daunting situations. I was lucky in that I had wise and patient mentors and one of the best classrooms in the world in which to learn and grow. I learned very quickly that it was easy to make mistakes and that those mistakes could have serious consequences. Luck and timing have favored many of us in regards to avalanche matters, and like many of you, luck and timing helped me to avoid numerous disasters early in my career. My Catholic upbringing instilled me with a profound sense of responsibility and guilt. These feelings condemned me to a high level of devotion to my job, the understanding that I needed to work extra hard, and the belief that by being thorough and methodical, I might somehow overcome all the uncertainties of avalanche work. These traits helped balance out my lack of knowledge and experience and formed the foundation for my career. Little Cottonwood Canyon is a challenging place for an avalanche worker. The abundant snowfall and steep terrain combine to create frequent and extensive avalanche activity. There are scores of inhabited buildings located within avalanche runout zones. And with over 1 million people living within 75 miles of the canyon, there are plenty of opportunities for avalanches and humans to interact. In this environment, one either learns quickly or moves on to another profession. This is the environment and the background that would influence any advice I might offer to my younger self or to any of you. It takes a strong commitment and a willingness to make many sacrifices in order to devote one's life to the study of snow and avalanches. To quote my friend and colleague, Peter Shorey, there are no part-time avalanche forecasters. Many of you work in difficult and challenging environments, and at times I'm sure the job can seem overwhelming. But by being continually tested, you are likely to become better at what you do than you would if you worked someplace where things were easy. In a challenging environment, mistakes seem to be unavoidable. Try to learn from them if you can. I have learned much more from my mistakes than I have from my accomplishments. Appreciation of one's accomplishments can lead to complacency. Appreciation of one's mistakes makes you want to avoid having them happen again. I have made many mistakes in my career. Thankfully, most of them resulted only in close calls. Sadly, however, some of them resulted in tragedy. But as a wise and revered mentor once told me, you do the best you can do, knowing that sooner or later something bad may happen. When it does, if you feel you did everything you thought you should have done to prevent it, you can look at yourself in the mirror the next morning and go back to work. Because of the capricious nature of snow and avalanches, mistakes in our chosen profession are unavoidable. Accept the fact that underestimation and miscalculation will likely be as much a part of your career as insight and intuition. Hopefully your mistakes will not be so disastrous as to turn you away from a career that offers so much opportunity to learn. The job of predicting and controlling avalanches is hard enough. Don't make it harder by trying to think it to death. Any success I enjoyed as an avalanche professional was primarily the result of three things: luck, timing, and hard work. How smart I may have been was a distant fourth. Realize that whatever is going on, even if it is unusual and something that you personally may have never experienced, you're probably not witnessing anything that hasn't happened before. Focus on the basics and the fundamentals. Stick to practices that have proven to be effective. Advancements in the avalanche field will be made, perhaps even by you. And when they happen, they are more likely to have evolved slowly from experiences that are sometimes painful, rather than from revolutionary new ideas that are based primarily on the desire to be trying something new. At the same time, it's important to keep an open mind. Listen to what other avalanche workers from both near and far have to say, and don't be too certain that the way you're doing things is necessarily the best or the only way. Be willing to experiment. Take the ideas and methods others have taught you and try to improve upon them. Don't be too convinced of your own superiority. Commit yourself to lifelong learning. Consider the Buddhist teaching that says, in the mind of the expert, the possibilities are limited, but in the mind of the beginner, the possibilities are endless. By recognizing the fact that there is still so much we have to learn about snow and avalanches, we can keep the open mind of a beginner. Our ego, which may be a necessity in order for us to be strong individuals, if unchecked, can also be a stumbling block. It can limit our ability to listen and to see. It can convince us that we know what's going on, when in reality we are setting ourselves up for failure. Arrogance, like recklessness or inattention, usually leads to trouble for avalanche workers. Unfortunately, it's easy to get wrapped up in our own image and the feeling of self-importance. After all, what we get to do is pretty cool. But these feelings are dangerous traps that can cloud our reasoning and limit our ability to see what is going on around us. I have come to believe that it's more important to strive to be a good avalanche worker, one who humbly and diligently deals with the day-to-day challenges of keeping the public safe, than to want to be the best avalanche guy in the world. There may be many outside forces that try to influence what you do and how you do it. Listen to what people have to say, but realize that their agenda may be different from yours. Try to accommodate the interests of others, but don't let their needs weigh too heavily on your decision-making. Be willing to take objective, well-intended advice and change plans presented with a good reason to do so. But realize that it's unlikely that anyone is paying as much attention to the situation as you are. Many people may be willing to offer you advice and tell you how things should be done, but very few are willing to share the blame when things go wrong. Avalanche workers are often forced to operate in gray areas where information may be lacking and there's no clear choice of what to do. It is in these situations that we can be the most vulnerable to subjective advice. Others can sense your level of uncertainty and may feel that you are in need of some direction. Be careful who you listen to and what their interests may be. Take the case of whether to leave the road in Little Cottonwood Canyon open or close it and carry out control work. Let's say that on the one hand it has been snowing and blowing, and the weather forecast suggests it will continue to snow, although confidence is low as to how much and how long it will last. On the other hand, there have been no indications yet of natural avalanche activity, and control work was carried out just 2 days ago. What should you do? If the road stays open and there are no delays, the ski areas make money. If the road is closed and control work carried out, the delays may result in the ski areas losing money. In this instance, would it be wise to follow advice from ski area managers? If the road stays open, cars flow into the canyon without monitoring or traffic control. The cops like this. If the road is closed, thousands of vehicles are queued up at the mouth of the canyon for several hours, creating major traffic issues. Cops don't like this. In this instance, would it be wise to try to accommodate the wishes of frustrated law enforcement officials? If the road stays open, thousands of people get to go skiing. If the road is closed, thousands of people are stuck in a monster traffic jam for hours and mob violence is just around the corner. In this instance, should we let the clamoring of the public influence our reasoning? If the road stays open, motorists could be at risk if the avalanche hazard continues to increase. If the road is closed and control work carried out, you may feel better, but you run the risk of losing credibility if there's no significant results. Who do you look to for advice? Obviously, there could be many different opinions from many different people. Each one of them may have their own reasons for wanting to influence your decision. Strive to remain consistently rational and objective. Focus on what you know is important, like wind, precipitation intensity, and avalanche activity. Not on what others might be thinking about your decisions. Don't become distracted by irrelevant concerns. If given the opportunity, you and your team will likely come to the right conclusion. Listen to your inner voice. It is probably telling you what you should do. If you have carefully analyzed the situation, then without arrogance or ego, be confident in your decision. You are doing the best you can do. Is there really anyone else who would want to shoulder the responsibility of what you're doing? This would be some of the advice I would offer my younger self, if I had the chance. Whether or not my younger self would listen to that advice is another matter. In the end, it's just a job. But for many of us, it defines who we are. It is just a job, but it's an important one. And it's hard. How we go about it is in many ways how we will be remembered. Thank you.